So welcome everyone, and I just have to start this by saying one of my favorite things for anybody that knows me or they live by film, and the way that we do this is identifying these new labels that are coming out and really trying to make a mark on the world and create their own path to physical media. And so I'm very excited today to bring in Gareth Luna, the founder of Mawu Films out of the UK. Gareth, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for inviting me. Yes.
Of course, and when I first heard about y'all on Reddit some months back, and the mission statement jumped out to me. Bringing back lost masterpieces, lovingly restored is great. And then you mentioned at that time that you were kind of focused on African and South American cinema, or
Yes, that's right.
North and South American cinema, and that's it's interesting. I don't know. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you chose that, because one of the consistent things that's happened in comments in Reddit on the different forums here over the years is people saying, "Hey, where's the African representation? Where's the South American representation?" They, those areas make good movies too. Um, so, do you mind just shedding a little bit of light right out of the gate here on how you chose that focus and where that interest comes from for those regions?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a Latin American background, so I had sort of South American films in particular from quite a long early age, or Spanish language films from quite an early age as well. Luis Buñuel being the main one. Particularly his Mexican films that he did, like Simon of the Desert and stuff like that, and just kind of fell in love with the films. Exterminating the Angel, I think was the first one I saw. And my passion grew from there. And also through, I mean, it was back in the day with VHS, I managed to get hold of some African cinema by Ousmane Sembene, or
Yeah.
Ousmane Sembene, and Diop Mambete, and just fell in love with the work. And when I was kind of, studied film and all aspects of cinema, and when I decided to set up this company, I thought, where where are these films on Blu-ray, or on DVD or on Blu-ray? And I thought it was kind of a lovely idea to kind of try and sort of showcase these films that deserve recognition, because they've been, sometimes been largely ignored, sadly, due to various reasons. Sometimes it's just restoration, or that kind of area.
Well, ignored no more. So that's a very exciting background.
Yeah.
And in what you said, I have about 100 questions because there's, I'm fascinated with the kind of journey to the idea of starting a physical media company to then actually going out and doing it. But one of the things I think, just for people to get to know you quickly before we take a deep dive into that, we don't have cameras on currently, but when we joined, we turned cameras on, and your backdrop was your impressive collection. So you're a collector first, right?
I am a collector first, yeah. A film lover, and then collector, and then yeah, and now releasing my own films, which is great. I think I'm really pleased with. It's been a great journey.
And
And
if
it's
you were, yeah, no, go ahead.
no, it was and I think it's just kind of when I was releasing the films, it was the first film, it's kind of just the kind of things that I like in a package. I wanted to kind of put those in. I like all the kind of little extras and booklets and posters, and I like all that kind of stuff, and that's why I really wanted to kind of to make it as special as possible.
I'm so glad you went that direction. So that's one of the things I wanted to ask about, because as I'm holding I'm not even going to try the Portuguese pronunciation, but I'm holding Man Marked for Death 20 years later in my hand. And one of the things that jumped out to me when I got it was I could tell that you're a collector. Everything from the spine number to the limited edition, the numbered limited edition,
Mm.
to the way you've structured the layout on the back feels very familiar and comfortable in a good way, right? It feels like there's a lot of thoughtfulness that went into it. So was that, was there a series of decisions, like for example, spine number? I know that's a topic that kind of, people go back and forth on, right? Um, did you, one of the common reasons why people don't do a spine number in your shoes is production issues and production delays and just trying to manage, what's coming out and when. But collectors certainly like the spine system. It's very clean, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
can you walk me through that process at all?
yeah. I mean, the spine number was, it was the first thing, one of the first things. I mean, um, I like them. Sadly, I'm going to admit, my collection is in order, by spine number, and
Yeah, me too.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, there was no even kind of second thought on that. It was like, yeah, gotta have spine numbers, and it was the first release as well, so it was kind of, it was an easy one, to kind of, to go through. I think as time progresses, it's, yeah, there's, may cause some problems balancing, what releases when and what spine number you're going to get, but yeah, I love them, and I thought it was a really important addition. So, and the
That's
numbering
great.
as well. The numbering, I do like a numbered, um, uh, Blu-ray. It's something that, it just makes it a little extra special, I think. Um,
No, I agree. So did you ever collect Anchor Bay DVDs by chance?
I got one or two, I think.
I don't know if they
Yeah.
made it to Region B as much, but or in that case it would have been Region 2 or I don't know, whatever the DVD was. But they, they're the ones that turned me on to this numbered system. I bought, I don't know, countless number of DVDs that I never heard of simply because they were numbered. And I was like, well, I don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
So it's a brilliant marketing technique. Um,
And
yeah. I guess speaking of that, because you have the numbered system, one of the questions that I know people always have is, are you going to go numbered followed by a standard release?
yes, yeah, we will do a standard release at some stage.
Okay.
And we're going to be hopefully, releasing, certainly in America, hopefully worldwide, because only in Europe at the moment, UK and Europe, and so hopefully, be, not entirely sure, but there's some distribution issues, uh, because of, the rights were still being held in America for, Man Marked for Death, I believe, and so we had to wait, and I believe we're going to be able to getting that, so that should be really great.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, easier for me. I know. But that's exciting to hear. Maybe that's a good segue just to talk about the film itself, because I watched Man Marked for Death 20 years later, about 3 or 4 days ago now. And I would say, it's interesting because it took me a little while to get into it because I wasn't sure exactly what I was watching. Then I realized at some point, maybe 20 minutes in, or I don't know, 20, 25 minutes in or so, I realized what Coutinho was trying to do. And then I just became hooked. Like it's this fascinating journey, right? Where he's basically was not able to release a film back in 64 due to government control and due to restrictions and censorship, essentially, from what he was making at the time, which was seen as a pro-labor film, kind of an anti-government film, right?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
then he comes back 20 years later with some footage that even the actors in the movie did not know what existed because they thought it had all been confiscated. And he kind of pieces together under the guise of telling the story of where they are now. He tells that story, but he also shows what he can from the original movie. So it's like two things happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's a, I think it's a meta documentary, and it's, I think it was, one of the first, and And for that reason, it's such an important film, because it was a new technique, and you can see he uses them as kind of a kind of flashback device, and to kind of integrate the film and the storytelling. And it's just amazing how he does it. It's not kind of you never feel it's crowbarred in. It always feels kind of seamless, and yeah, it's one of those films that I think it works as a documentary. It works as a feature film. It has kind of both aspects to it, and I think that's why it's such an exciting piece of work.
I think that's especially when Elizabeth comes into the picture, it really sort of took on another level for me because it took it away from an interesting story about a documentary that wasn't made to this personal story of
Mm.
Elizabeth and her family and her husband and like how it's impacted her. And I think it was a brilliant move to bring her in a little bit later because it set the foundation. And then it was like, okay, now we're going to tell the story through the lens of one person who this deeply affected, right? It's very,
Mm.
very well done.
And she's such an extraordinary lady as well. And still with us, thankfully. And I think she's 96.
Nice.
And yeah, she's an amazing lady. And you just get it. Her passion and her what she says is just so um, crucial to the film.
Yeah.
It's delivered with such I can't think of the word
No,
as
I
well.
mean
Yeah,
you couldn't possibly have an actor portray that role better, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's also personal for her. It feels so raw. Like there's no acting involved. This is everything just happens. It's so in the moment and real for her. I love it.
And the fact that he used her in the original film that they were shooting gives us great opportunity to kind of splice in this footage as a kind of almost retelling the story of the assassination of her husband,
Yeah.
which was the original film. And he used her in the film. And so he was able to then integrate this footage into the film, which yeah works so well.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. How did you come across this and how did you decide to make it your first release?
Wow, and yeah, this one's. I knew of the film. I was aware of the film, but I'd never seen it. And then Birkbeck University, University of London, where I studied, were doing during lockdown. They were doing a series of documentary essay festival, and they did a whole day school on his work. And Man Marked for Death was one of the films that they mainly concentrated on. And there was an opportunity to watch the film, and it knocked my socks off. And I just like, yeah, this is going to be one of my first films. But then it was kind of trying to track it down, and who was a distributor, and yeah, I think so. I went on the Cannes because it had been restored, and I went on the Cannes website, and they had a link, and I contacted the Mappa Films, and yeah, and we had discussions, and yeah, that was
That's
the first
amazing.
release. Yeah.
And I know there's a couple interviews on here. Are these ones that you conducted or are these ones that had already been done that you were able to
The no,
find?
the Zolito Viana one, who's the producer of the film, that was shot for the Blu-ray, and the other documentary was is an award-winning documentary that was shot some time ago. I don't know the exact date, I'm afraid.
No, no, no. Okay, great. And so this is I think the fascinating thing because you so not only did you have to be interested in the film, you had to go chase down the rights. Now you also had to go find the producer, interview them, add subtitles in. Um,
Yeah,
So this is quite an endeavor to take on for your first production. Um,
Yeah, and it's for the this is the first company, the first Blu-ray company I've it was, I've ever gone into. It was the first kind of so it was kind of it's been a real learning curve. It's and it's been so exciting, and I've enjoyed every second of it. But it's yeah, it's it's been it's had it's a lot of interesting kind of bits and pieces along the way, but it's gone fairly smoothly for the first release. I think I was very pleased with how it went.
well, that's good. Why did you decide to do this as opposed to anything else you could do in the world?
Oh well, I mean, I hit a kind of landmark age, and I was trying to think what do I really want to do, and I was kind of you know. And I kind of thought, and being a collector and my passion for film, I thought, actually, I would really, and I'd been looking into trying to work for some other companies, um, uh, and actually thought, you know what, I'm going to set up my own company instead, because
That's awesome.
then I get to release the films that I want to release, and that's what happened. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, are you able to talk about your second release at all?
I can't at the moment, no, sadly. It's a really
Okay.
exciting one, though. Really exciting. It's yeah. What can I say?
No,
Without
no,
giving
no, no, no.
anything away, I can't really say anything at all. But yeah, it's a biggie, and it's going to be amazing. We've got yeah, and hopefully yeah, yeah. No, I'm not going to say anymore.
No, 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 no pressure to. Just wondering, because I'm always interested in kind of this next question, which again, not specifics, just at a high level. How much do you currently have in your kind of production backlog? Like, do you have the rights to, another three movies or another 10 or another, like how are you, how does that work for you in terms of like how far ahead are you thinking?
We're doing at the moment because it's a relatively small company. We're doing kind of
Right.
one or two at a time. So small batches, and yeah, uh, we're kind of trying to expand on that. Hopefully, I mean, I would like to be in a position at some stage, like companies like Second Run, release, and other companies, releasing kind of once a month. But at the moment, it's just not possible, and we're not going to be releasing any more this year, sadly. There was some thought that we are going to be able to release another title, but it's had to be pushed back, I'm afraid. So, but it will hopefully be sort of early to mid next year. I think the next release.
So that's for now at least. We can expect about two to maybe three releases a year from you.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, yeah. I would say that.
That's my wallet. Thanks you for that. And I'm sure that you're looking to make, like you said, a bunch more, but I think that's a great place to start and really kind of get a cult following. I mean, if you continue to produce at this level, you're going to quickly become a favorite. If people don't know about you for whatever reason, this is a very high quality disc, and we haven't even talked about the poster and the really informative, well constructed booklet,
Oh, thank you.
and
Yeah.
the art cards. I mean, there's so much that went into this release. It really is. It feels like a definitive edition of this movie, and it kind of puts Coutinho on the shelf for people, which is also exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to do, do his work proud. I'm such a fan of his work, and I've seen, having to do this film. I mean, I've watched this film so many times, and I never get bored of it. I just find it exciting every time, single time I watch it, and so I really wanted to, and first release, of course, you want to do something that's going to make people sit up, and hopefully, um, Mawu has done that. You know, Yeah, it was more. I think it was more about the director. I wanted to kind of I wanted to do him justice because I think there hasn't been a Blu-ray release of any of his work, and I think this is the first time any of his work's been available on Blu-ray. So I'm
And
very proud of that.
and just one more thing about Coutinho, just before we move on, because you brought up Second Run, and I want to ask you about that briefly. But just quickly on Coutinho, that interview, that you said that award-winning documentary that's on there, he
Mm,
comes off as this sort of like outsider filmmaker, but I love his energy. Like you can
yes,
see his intelligence, you can see his thoughtfulness. Like he's a very kind of, I don't know, exciting, engaging personality.
yes. I mean, it's a tragedy that he's no longer with us, and yes, but I mean, he was just so full of life, and um, his work was just so revolutionary. All his work, I mean, all his documentaries are just stunning. But Man Marked for Death, is most famous and probably his most important. And we're very lucky to have it as our first release.
Well, I look forward to bringing you back on in 2025 when you've done the complete Coutinho box set.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something I would love to do. Really, really.
But that kind of brings me. So you mentioned Second Run, and honestly, before I saw I don't know if it's the complete, but what looks like the complete Second Run catalog on your shelves,
Mm,
um, I immediately just sort of intuitively felt like like a kindred spirit to Second Run when I got this disc in. It just kind of feels maybe not aesthetically. I'm sure there's some similarities, but just in the way the film, the way you talk about the films, the way the even to the type font a little bit, it just feels like kind of a spiritual companion there. Do you know those folks, or are you just a fan?
they were, they were very helpful at the beginning when I was trying to set up the company. They gave me some advice and really, really lovely company. And yeah, they've been incredibly helpful and supportive uh, 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 early on, and and now as well. So they're wonderful company, and I'm huge fans of their work. And even, but when I was setting up the company, I like I mean, they have films from all over the world, but they specifically specialize in Czech, Hungarian, and Polish cinema. And and I kind of wanted a company that had that kind of uh, that kind of area of yeah, kind of looking at looking at a specific area of cinema, and without treading on anybody's toes as well. I didn't want to kind of do the same as another company. I wanted to kind of be a fresh company
Yeah.
and try and do an area that fascinated me as well. And has always fascinated me.
Well, that's good. I mean, I always I wish Second Run was more well known in the US where I'm at, because I think, for every 17-year-old or 20-year-old or whatever that gets into Criterion, if you really get the bug and you really start going down the rabbit holes of kind of foreign and international cinema, I think you naturally discover Second Run at some point, because they're almost like a level down in terms of, like a deep cut on an album or
Mm,
something, where
mm.
they're out there finding these films from artists that are very influential at the time of release, and for one reason or another maybe aren't on the tip of tongues nowadays, but are begging to be rediscovered. And like we were talking about before we started recording, you know, I don't know if they've had a miss yet. I mean, I haven't seen everything they've put out, but
Yeah,
I don't know that they've.
yeah, I mean, every film is just a masterpiece. I mean, there's not. I had never seen a film that I've gone, okay. They're all just blindingly
Yeah.
good. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah, just films that that can, and many of the films that kind of just change the way you look at film. those films you just go, wow, okay, where have you been all my life?
Right.
I mean, films like Maketa Lazarova, which is just an extraordinary film. And if, I think Criterion do have it on Blu-ray. But for all those people out there, do try and track it down because it's an extraordinary
Yeah.
film.
And I can say that at least so far you're 1 for 1 in that category. So you're right on track with them so far. um, other than increasing quantity of production,
Mm.
where do you want to kind of take Mawu? Like, do you have visions for, box sets, and do you have visions for like sub labels where you're focusing, or are you just kind of taking it one at a time and letting that happen organically?
I mean, at the moment, it's very early days, so we're just going to focus on the African and Latin American cinema. But I do have ideas. Yes, box sets definitely. I'd love to do a box set. And I know the film or the films that and the director that's going to hopefully be in that box set, and we've had talks, so that will be great when that happens. Sub companies, yeah. I would like to, yeah. What I would love to do is branch out a wee bit uh, and perhaps explore other areas of the world, and kind of areas that aren't looked at perhaps as much as uh, other countries, and I think that's the real mission, is just try and kind of highlight and these kind of lost films, or not lost films necessarily. A lot of people know Mehmet for their, but films that don't get the attention perhaps as they should do.
I kind of frame it in my head, at least, as like films that are at risk of being future lost films, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No,
That's
perfectly put.
that's kind of the way I think about it, because yeah, anyways, but I think it's really important work you're doing. Um, so there, you know, because you're a new company, and at least to the world, even though I'm sure you've been thinking about this for years now in some capacity, distribution is always something that I find very interesting. Was it scary at all to think about putting all this kind of money and time into something and then just sort of saying, here you go, world, I have this thing to buy?
um, yes, I mean, it's of course there are always risks, and but I think I really tried to kind of put that aside a little bit, because the passion um, was and the excitement of doing this project kind of took me over, and so it kind of tried to put it back in my head a wee bit, um, but yeah, the distribution aspect really is daunting, I have to say. um, it's particularly because we had the big delay. Originally it was supposed to come out before Christmas last year, and we had to push it back, or push it back, and it didn't come out until April, end of April, beginning of May, which was unfortunate. And it's just trying to and as a new company also, you have to kind of try and make a name for yourself, and
Right.
make sure that people can discover your film, and these kind of aspects have been difficult, and but I think it's beginning to build, and it's and that's been great, and I think we've been getting great reviews, and it's been really exciting, and satisfying, because it's a big relief, when you finally put something out. You're going to get lots of criticism for the release, the disc, because you do when you go on forums and you go and you look at stuff, and I'm a big lover of martial art films, and you read particularly with Criterion because they don't do the dubs on their films, and you get a lot of criticism for that. Criterion get a lot of criticism for that, and which I don't understand. I don't like the dubs. So I've never watched a dub film in my life, and so yeah, it's just kind of it's been really nice, kind of getting that kind of positive feedback, and
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. The collectors are not shy about their
no,
feedback,
they're
so
not.
I'm
No,
glad
no.
I'm glad it's been positive for you.
Yeah.
There, it is, I'm sure it's a temptation starting a label to go under let's say like Powerhouse Films, or I forget the name of their distribution arm, Limewood maybe, or Arrow Video has their own distribution arm.
Hmm.
In the States here is OCN, they have their own MVDs, they have their own but so far, at least, you have kind of eschewed that and just said, "Nope, I got it." Has that been, again, at a very high level? Are you happy with the sales? Has that been a successful first release from that perspective?
Been not too bad. Yeah. It's yeah,
Good.
we're kind of happy. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, it's all going well. Yeah.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear it. And currently, it's not so easy to buy in the US, but I heard you earlier say that part of your plans for next year are to create some distribution channels into Region A.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's region free anyway, and that was one of
Mhm.
the I wanted it. That was one of the first things when I was planning to do this company. Wanted to make sure that it was region free, so it could play on any Blu-ray player anywhere in the world. But then due to distribution rights, we had to just do Europe and the UK because of that.
Okay. And so but once those are cleared, there's already ways you kind of have paths to get it here once those are
Mm,
cleared.
yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, good news. Do you have any, I mean, just being hopeful, I guess, do you have any time frame? Is that going to be by summer or by spring or?
Not entirely sure yet. Don't
Okay.
want to speak about it too much because, yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
It's been a while since we've discussed it, and but yeah, I think spring. I think we can start negotiating. So, and because we've got the product already, it's not going to be um, so so difficult to kind of we have to manufacture and everything
Okay.
to get out to America. So
Well, here's the hoping it goes easy for you. And I guess if nothing else, what a fantastic learning experience right out of the gate.
yeah, it's been brilliant. Yes, I really, really, and I love doing research and that kind of stuff. So it's been absolutely fantastic for me. Um, that's the bit I've enjoyed the most. Kind of doing the research for the films, uh, and kind of putting together the kind of rough list of films that I kind of want to put out, and trying to find out if they're available, if they're restored, these kind of things. That aspect I've really enjoyed. Um,
Yeah. Wow. Well, what a fascinating personality you are. I'm always, I come from an entrepreneurship background, more kind of in tech, but there's so many similarities in the things you're saying and the way you approach this to people that have successful tech companies. So I have no doubt you're going to be successful, and it means a lot to be able to speak to you early on like this. Um, where for people right now, if they want to buy, they need to be in Region B. Um, or what about Australia and that? Are you able to sell over there, or is it mostly Region B right now?
not at the moment. No, it's
Okay.
just Europe and UK at the moment. So
Okay.
uh, for the time being. So, but next year, fingers crossed, it'll be worldwide.
Okay, great. So for now, support Gareth if you're in Region B, or find products through resellers like I did. They don't have to take that official position though. Um, but I guess where should people find you if they have any questions or if they just want to kind of chat with you?
Go to mawufilms.com, and you can there's a get in touch uh, page on the website, and you can contact me there, and I will get back to you.
Okay. Does that include making recommendations of people's passion projects they want to see you put out?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, people have, and I've written some of them down, and yeah, there's a couple that I'm really interested in. I've won a couple I hadn't heard of. So yeah, I'm gonna try and track those down, see what happens. But yeah, absolutely, suggestions always great. I'm
Awesome.
welcome.
Well, Gareth, this has been a true pleasure. And I guess I don't know how much I mentioned this at the beginning, but thank you for saying yes when I asked you. This is your first podcast. That means a lot.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it actually. It's so I was slightly nervous to begin with, in doing this, and when you approached me, I was like, "Ooh." But yeah, I'm really glad I've done it, and I've really enjoyed being on the podcast. And I hope I've asked all your questions, answered all your questions, um,
Yep.
uh, with with some kind of insight at least.
No, I mean, if I've learned anything about you in the last 30, 40 minutes, it's that you just jump in headfirst to a challenge, including the challenge of doing your first podcast. So it means a lot. And yeah, I do wish you nothing but success. And I'm going to continue buying as much as you put out. So
No, thank you, thank you. Very kind. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
hey, same. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks, Gareth.